Okay, let's get started. This video is broken down into 4 phases. The first phase is connecting diamonds. And these are how diamonds connect with each other so you can hit a specific spot or a pocket on the table. The next phase is finding the diagonal. So when the ball is in the middle of the table or away from the side rail, I show you how to find the diagonal so you can get to 0. And the next phase is one ball banks. In this phase, we learn how to see the path each object ball is on, and you're also going to get a feel for speed and English. And the final phase is cue ball banks. And in this phase, I show you how to bank balls using the cue ball along with the diamonds. So, let's get started. In this phase, I'm going to show you how all the diamonds connect to each other. And we're going to name the diamonds. This corner pocket is going to be 0. And all the diamonds along this rail are going to have their own number, from 10 all the way to 80. So the first diamond will be 10, second diamond 20, fourth diamond 40, and that corner pocket is going to be 80. And the diamonds along the opposite rail are numbered the same way, 0 all the way up to 80. And that's all you have to remember. So here, the cue ball is in front of the second diamond. And we know that diamond is 20. So how do we shoot at the opposite rail for the cue ball to end up at 0? Well, we simply divide 20 in half and we get 10. So if we shoot at 10 at the opposite rail, the cue ball will end up at 0. And when you shoot these shots, you may need a little bit of running English. In this case, left-hand English. And every table plays differently, so you just get to find out how much English you need, if any, to make the ball go off the opposite rail and head toward the pocket. On my table, I need about a quarter tip of running English. On your table, you may need a little bit more English, or on some tables, you don't need any English at all. Here, the cue ball is in front of the first diamond, which we know is 10. So we shoot at 5 and the cue ball goes to 0. Here, the cue ball is next to 20, so we shoot at 10 and the cue ball goes to 0. And here we can see the cue ball is on the 30-15 path. And here's a closer view of the cue ball on that path. So if we shoot at 15, the cue ball will go to 0. Next, the cue ball is on the 40-20 path. And if we look here, we can see that the fourth diamond is located at the back of the side pocket. So if we shoot at 20, the cue ball will end up at 0. Here, the cue ball is on the 50-25 path. And from this angle, we can see the path from 50 to 25. So by shooting at 25, the cue ball will end up at 0. Now the cue ball is next to 70. So if we shoot at 35, the cue ball will go to 0. But when we shoot from this wide of an angle, the cue ball will tend to go wide, as you can see here. So to correct this problem, you just need to shoot a little more firmly than you normally would to get to 0. Now we're on 80-40. So when we shoot at 40, we're striking the rail right before the side pocket, as you can see here. Okay, let's say the cue ball is between the fourth and fifth diamond. I'll put it right here. And I know that between these two diamonds would be 45. Where the cue ball is above 45, so it looks like it's right around 48. So I know that if I shoot at 24 over here, the cue ball will go to 0. And the way I get 24 is, I know this is the second diamond here, this is the third diamond, so this is 20, this is 30. Between these two diamonds would be 25. So if I aim to just to the left of 25, that would be 24. I just need a little bit of running English. Okay, this time let's say the cue ball is right here, between the first and second diamond. Well, I know this diamond is 10, and this diamond is 20. So I look between the two diamonds, and I know that's 15. And between 15 and this diamond would be 12 and a half. And this looks like it's right above 12 and a half, right around 13. So that tells me I need to shoot a 6 and a half over here for the cue ball to go to 0. So to recap this phase, remember the corner pocket is 0, the one you're going toward, and all the diamonds are in increments of 10, 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 80, and the opposite rail is the same. So if your cue ball is at the 6th diamond from 0, we know that's 60, you aim at 30, and you'll end up at 0. Okay, so in the first phase we learned that if the cue ball is in front of the side pocket, we know this is 40, so we would shoot at 20, we would end up at 0. If the cue ball were in front of the 5th diamond, that's 50, we shoot at 25, the cue ball would end up at 0. And if the cue ball were here, this is 60, we shoot at 30, and so on. But now what happens when the cue ball's in the middle of the table? How do we know where to shoot at on this rail to end up at 0? And that's where you use your stick. So the trick here is you want to find nearby diagonals that already go to 0. For instance, I'm going to hold this over 60 and 30. And the cue ball isn't on that diagonal. So we're going to move this down to 50, 25. The cue ball isn't on that diagonal. Move this down to 40, 20. So now let's try 44, 22. So right now the cue ball is on the 44, 22 diagonal. If I shoot at 22, the cue ball will go to 0. And it doesn't matter where the cue ball is, you should be able to find the diagonal the cue ball is on just by using your pull stick. And here we're going to hold the stick over nearby diagonals until we can locate what diagonal the cue ball is on. This is 50, 25. This is 40, 20. The cue ball isn't on this diagonal, but it's really close. So I'm just going to move it down to maybe 38, 19. So right now we're at 38, 19. So if I were to shoot at 19 with just a little bit of running English, the cue ball will go to 0. So in this example, the cue ball is away from the side rail, so we need to find out what diagonal it's on. So we put our stick over nearby diagonals that we know already exist. That's 50, 25. The next one is 40, 20, and the cue ball isn't on that diagonal. So next we'll move it down to 30, 15, 0, and the cue ball is directly underneath the stick, which means it's on that diagonal. So if we were to shoot the cue ball at 15, the cue ball would end up at 0. In this next example, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put our stick over nearby diagonals. This is 10, 5, 0. Now we're going to move it over to 20, 10, 0. The cue ball isn't on that diagonal, but it's close. So we'll move the stick over to 22, 11, and the cue ball is directly on that diagonal. In this example, the cue ball is a little farther up table. So we do the same thing. We take our pull stick and we hold it over nearby diagonals. This is 50, 25, and the cue ball isn't on that diagonal. Next we'll move it over to 60, 30, and the cue ball isn't on that diagonal, but it's close. So if we move it down a little bit, we see it's on the 58, 29, 0 diagonal. And it doesn't even matter where the cue ball is. Like if we put the cue ball here, I know that this is on the 80, 40, 0 diagonal. And if we put the cue ball here, I know this is on 48, 46, 23. So if I shoot at 23, the cue ball should go to 0. If the cue ball is coming off the end rail, how do we find the diagonal that goes to 0? Well, first, let me tell you what the diamonds represent. Well, we know the corner pocket is 80, and the diamond right above it will be at 100. The middle diamond is 120, and the third diamond up is 140. So, if we look at this cue ball, it looks like it's on the 150 diagonal. So if we were to shoot a 50 with a little bit of running English, the cue ball should go to 0. Here, the cue ball looks like it's on the 120-60 diagonal. So if we were to shoot this cue ball at 60 with a little bit of running English, it should go to 0. Here, the cue ball looks like it's on the 90-45-0 diagonal. So if we were to shoot a 45 with a little bit of running English, the cue ball should end up at 0. So now the cue ball is on the 150 diagonal. So if we were to shoot a 50, the cue ball should go to 0. And now we're on the 120-60-0 diagonal. The cue ball should go to 0. Okay, now we're on the 140-70 diagonal. This is 140 here, and this is 70. So if we shoot a 70, the cue ball should go to 0. Now, instead of banking this cue ball into the corner pocket, we're going to bank it into the side pocket. So the side pocket is now going to be 0. And the first diamond away from the side pocket is going to be 10. The next diamond away is going to be 20. And the third diamond is 30, corner pocket is 40, and the diamonds along the end rail are going to be 50, 60, and 70. So, we grab our stick and we hold it over nearby diagonals. Here I hold it over 20, 10, 0, but the cue ball isn't on that diagonal. So, we'll move the cue stick over just a little bit, and now we see it's on the 22, 11 diagonal. If we were to shoot 11 with a little bit of running English, the cue ball should end up at 0. Now the cue ball is coming from the end rail, and it looks like it's on the 50-25-0 diagonal. If we were to shoot at 25 with a little bit of running English, the cue ball will end up at 0. Here, the cue ball is higher up on the end rail, so we'll grab our pull stick and we'll find out what diagonal this cue ball is on. Now we see it's on the 64-32-0 diagonal. If we were to shoot at 32 with a little bit of running English, the cue ball will end up at 0. So if the cue ball is here, this is 40-20-0. If I shoot at 20, the cue ball should go to 0. Now as the cue ball moves up along this end rail here, we have to use these diamonds. So let's say the cue ball is right here on the 50-25 diagonal. So if I shoot at 25, the cue ball should go to 0. So now we're on the 60-30 diagonal. Now remember, this side pocket's going to be 0 because we're banking toward it. And so whatever the numbers are along here are going to be the same over here. So 10, 20, 30. And this is 50 and 60. So that's why this is 30 over here. So this is 60. I'm going to shoot toward 30. And now this is 70. So now this is 70, and we're going to put on the 70-35 diagonal. So to recap on this phase, when the cue ball is away from the side rail, you hold your pull stick over nearby diagonals until you find the diagonal the cue ball is on. So this is 50-25, the cue ball isn't on that diagonal. So we move it over to 60-30, and we see the cue ball is directly on that diagonal. So if we were to shoot the cue ball at 30, at the opposite rail, the cue ball would end up at 0. In this section, we're going to be doing one-ball banking. And one-ball banking is really, really important because one-ball banking helps you see the path the object ball is on whenever you walk up to a table. For instance, let's say we walk up to a table and we want to bank the 7 ball in the side pocket. Well, we hold our stick over nearby diagonals, 20, 10, 0, it's not on there. We'll move it down just a little bit. Now we see it's on the 22, 11, 0 diagonal. So I now have a target to shoot at. If I can aim this ball at that target, with a little bit of English, I can pocket the ball. And every pool ball is on more than one path. So let's say I want to shoot the same ball in the corner pocket. Well, I hold the pool stick over 40, 20, 0. It's not on that diagonal. I'll bring it down just a little bit. Now I see it's on the 38, 19, 0 path. If I just aim toward that target with a little bit of English on the cue ball, I can pocket the ball in the corner pocket. In this example, I just hold my stick over nearby diagonals. We'll try 60, 30. It's not on that diagonal. We'll move it down just a little bit. And now we see it's on the 58, 29, 0 path. So I now have a target to aim at. And I just make whatever adjustments I need to make so I can pocket that ball. So in this section, I'm going to be showing you drills that you can do so that when you walk up to a table, you can see every path that object ball is on. Alright, so now this is one-ball banking, and this is the most important part of the video. This is the part of the video that can absolutely transform your banking, but you gotta do it the right way, and you gotta put in the hours. And what I recommend is doing one-ball banking for a couple weeks before you even think about using a cue ball. In banking, people have to understand, bank shots are difficult because there's lots of variables. There's the rails, there's the English on the cue ball, the English that gets transferred onto the object ball, there's speed, if you hit it too hard, the angle comes up short, so there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of factors involved in banking the proper way. So what I like to do is I just like to do one-ball banks until you get a feel for the speed in English. And if you do one-ball banks long enough, even after a couple hours, you'll be able to walk up to a table without even using your cue. You'll be able to see the path each object ball is on. For instance, I can tell right away this is, let's see, 12-6. And this is 2010. And it's like this is 28-14. And why that's so important is once you get into, let's say you're playing 9-ball or 8-ball or whatever, and you have an important shot you have to bank in. Let's say we have to bank this 5-ball over here in this corner pocket. Well, first of all, we're no longer guessing as to where we're going to hit over here. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to find the path the 5-ball is on. And right away, I know it's on the 22, 11, 0 path. So if I were to shoot that 5-ball at 11, it'll go toward the corner pocket. So we'll put it back on 22, 11. Now it's up to me to use that information and make any sort of adjustment I need to make to bank it in the corner pocket. So these diamonds are telling me this is on the 22, 11, 0 path. So now my target is right here. So then I just have to make my adjustments. That becomes my target spot. And I can bank it in the corner pocket. So always remember, these diamonds are here to help you. They're like your caddy. You can walk up to a table now, after doing this drill for a while, and be able to see the path of each object ball. And that is so important because it gives you information to work with, and then you make your adjustments once you get that target. So now we're going to be talking about how to sight when it comes to banking a ball. And this is really important. We're going to go through that next. And then we're going to be banking balls off the in rail, just one ball banks. And we're going to be doing, I'm going to try a run, 10 or 11 balls, just banking them in. And then we have some other stuff coming up. Okay, we're going to be talking about sighting and banking. And let's say we're going to pocket this ball in the corner. When I get down on this shot, I can see the corner pocket in my vision. So it's real easy for me to aim, line up, and shoot. And let's say I'm going to bank a ball, and let's say the ball is on the 20, 10, 0 diagonal. I know that I have something to aim for. I can aim toward that first diamond, and the ball should come back toward the corner pocket. But what happens when, let's say, your object ball is on the 24, 12, 0 diagonal? There's nothing really distinctive to look at on the rail. It all kind of blends together. And I don't think your opponent is going to let you put a piece of chalk to mark that spot. And a lot of players, what they'll do is they'll quickly get down on the table, then they're going to try and find that spot again when they're down, and they end up missing the spot altogether. Because like I said, it all blends together, and unless you keep track of that spot, you may lose it. So this time, I want you to see that 12 in your mind and draw a line from 12 to the object ball. Now, when we get ready to shoot this object ball, what I want you to do is I want you to watch the object ball as it travels on the line toward that spot. Here, my spot is right around 14. So I'm going to draw a line from 14 to the object ball. So now I can see that line in my mind. Now, when I get down on the table, I can still see that line, so I'll follow the object ball as it travels on the line toward that spot. You know, the big problem with people is that they don't have enough confidence in their banking. So what happens is they tend to rush their shot and their eyes go away from their target area. And when you're shooting at just a green space here, and there's nothing distinctive about it, and you can't really put a piece of chalk there because your opponent might get angry, you really got to keep your eye on that spot. That's why I like to keep my eye on the spot, draw a line from that spot to the object ball, and then when I bank it in, my eyes are following the object ball as it hits that spot. So I'm just going to be banking these in real quick. Now in each one, it's real important to follow the ball as it hits a spot on the rail that you picked out. For instance, this one here is like 16-8. Actually, this is more like 18-9, yeah, 16-8. And I just followed that all the way as it hit my target. My eyes are just following it. Once you can get the hang of that, then if somehow you're missing banks, since you're following the ball to your target, you'll know right away if you're missing your target because you're following the ball to the target. You're going to know right away what you're doing wrong. So it's real important that when you do these one ball banks, that you do everything properly. And by properly, I mean find the path it's on, number one. And number two, when you shoot the ball at your target spot, imagine it in your mind, a line that goes from that target spot to the ball, and watch it as you go down, and then follow the ball as it goes toward the target. You always got to follow the ball as it heads toward the target. That's really important. So now we're going to be doing some long rail banks. And remember, whatever pocket that you're going to bank toward is always going to be 0. In this case, the top right-hand corner pocket is going to be 0. And the diamond next to that pocket is going to be 10. The next diamond will be 20, then 30, and the other corner pocket is going to be 40. So it looks like this ball that I'm going to bank is on the 40, 20, 0 diagonal. So if I just aim toward 20, that ball should go toward 0. And with long rail banks, you don't need as much English. And on some tables, you don't need any English at all. You're just going to have to experiment and see what works on the table that you're playing on. On this table here, I just need high center on the object ball, and that should take it toward 0. Okay, now we're on 10, 5, 0. And this is just going to be center high. I'm just going to aim toward 5. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the diamonds along the long rail and what numbers each diamond represents. Well, we know that the top right hand corner pocket is going to be 0 since that's the pocket we're going to bank toward. The next diamond is going to be 10, then 20, then 30, and the other corner pocket is going to be 40. And as we move along this long rail, 2 diamonds away from 40 is going to be 50. The side pocket is going to be 60. 2 diamonds away from that is 70. And this bottom left-hand corner pocket is going to be 80. So if the cue ball were in this position here, I can tell that it's on the 50, 25, 0 diagonal. If I were to shoot at 25 with center high, the cue ball should head towards 0. So here, the cue ball is higher up on the rail. And I'm not quite sure what diagonal it's on, so in this circumstance I would use my pool stick. So now, using my pool stick, I can see the cue ball is on the 60, 30, 0 diagonal. If I were just to aim at 30 with center high, the cue ball should head toward 0. Okay, so now I'm going to shoot a couple shots off the long rail. Here, the cue ball is on the 50, 25, 0 diagonal. So just shooting with center high, the cue ball should head toward 0. Now we'll move the cue ball up to 60, 30. And it's the same thing. Center high towards your target should send the cue ball toward 0. So now we're going to try in between the diamonds. This one here is going to be 68, 34. So just aiming at 34 with center high should send the cue ball towards 0. So the diamonds are helping me. They're helping me find where to shoot on a rail to pocket a ball. And that's what you have to learn how to do. And once you get the hang of it, it's going to be pretty simple. And I'm going to be showing that to you. I can get up to the table and I can tell pretty quickly what path the ball is on, and then I can just fire it in. So right away here, I know this is on 16-8. And this is, let's see, 24-12. And it looks like this is 34-17. And it looks like this is 40-20. And it's like this is 50-25. And it looks like this is 56-28. And we'll shoot this one in the side pocket. This is 14-7. And this is pretty simple stuff. Once you get the hang of this, this isn't that hard at all. This is 16-13. And the last one we'll bank in the corner. This is 14-7. To recap this phase, the first thing you want to do when you approach the table is find the 0-point diagonal. In this case, it's 50, 25, 0. So 25 now becomes our target, and if we were to shoot at 25 with running English, the object ball would go to the corner pocket. So now that we know 25 is our target, we draw a line from 25 to the object ball. And we keep visualizing that line as we get down on the table. And when we shoot the object ball, we watch the object ball as it travels along that line toward that spot on the rail, which is 25. Imagine if you were playing on a high-tech table and you're playing a game of 9-ball and you need to bank this 8-ball in the bottom left-hand corner pocket. And all you had to do was press a button and the table would actually show you the path the object ball is on to get to the corner pocket. And it even gave you a target to shoot at along the side rail. And it wouldn't matter where the object ball is, you just press a button and the table will show you the path the object ball is on, including the target to aim at along the rail. And then it's up to you to use that information and make any adjustments you need to make so you can pocket that ball into the pocket. But the fact is, you don't need a high-tech table. If you've done the one-ball banking drill enough times, you should begin to start seeing the path each object ball is on before you bank it. For instance, in this situation, I know this is right around 60-30, 50-25, but I'm going to double check it with my pull stick. Here, this is 50-25-0, and the object ball isn't on that diagonal. So we'll move the stick up, and now we see the object ball is on the 58-29-0 diagonal. So now I know the path the object ball is on, including the target that I need to aim at along the end rail. So, using this information, I can make whatever adjustments I need to make and pocket that ball in the corner pocket. That's why it's so important for you to get good at the one-ball banking drill so you can start to visualize the path each object ball is on. Alright, now we're going to be banking with a cue ball. And hopefully you went through the last phase and you went through all the one-ball banks. And hopefully you're able to walk up to a table and see the path that each object ball is on. For instance, I know this one's on 2010. And this one's on 3216. And let's see, this one's on 6030. So you have to be able to get to the point where you can just walk up to a table and just see the path the object ball is on. But now that we have that information, how do we use that to bank the ball with the cue ball? So I'm going to show that to you right now. Okay, so let's say the 5 ball is on the 20-10-0 diagonal. So I know if I shoot this 5 toward 10, this diamond right here, with about a quarter tip of running English, that 5 ball will come over here to the side pocket. I'll show it to you right now. Just a quarter tip of running English. Now remember, whenever I'm doing this, I'm watching the object ball on that line go toward that spot. You always got to remember that. Now, I'm just going to bank this in with the cue ball. And I'm just going to use center on the cue ball, and I want to show you what happens to the object ball. Now here it came up short, and the reason it came up short is because I hit center on the cue ball, which means this object ball had 0 English on it. And I know right now I need a little bit of left-hand English so that when this object ball hits this rail, the left-hand English takes the object ball toward the side pocket. So if it has no English on it, it's not going to make it over to the side, it's going to come up short. So now what I need to do is I need to put English on the cue ball so I can transfer English onto the object ball. And to understand that, you have to understand the physics behind it. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So what you have to understand is that whatever English you put on the cue ball is going to transfer the opposite English to the object ball. So if you hit the cue ball on the left side, it's going to transfer right-hand English to the object ball. If you hit the cue ball on the right side, it's going to transfer left-hand English to the object ball. And if you hit low on the cue ball, it's going to transfer high to the object ball. So you have to think of pull balls like gears. So when the balls collide, and here it is in slow motion, you can see how the low is transferring high to the object ball, and now the object ball has high English. In this example, I want to shoot the 10 ball into the 9 ball and I want the 10 ball to follow the 9 into the pocket. So I need to put high English on the 10 ball. And I do that just by hitting the cue ball low. And this time I'm going to be using right hand English on the cue ball so I can transfer left hand English onto the object ball. And as I said before, the pool balls are like gears. When one ball meets another ball, it transfers the opposite English. Okay, so now we're going to bank 3 balls in. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the 0-point diagonal that each one is on. And this one is on 18-9. So I'm going to put the cue ball on the same path. And this is what they call a dead bank. When the object ball and the cue ball are on the same path line. Right now it's just like right around 18-9. So I know if I were to shoot this with high right at 9, it would go to the corner. So knowing I need high right on the object ball, I'm going to have to shoot the cue ball with low left. So this 13 ball right here looks like it's right around 26-13. So I'll put the cue ball here. Now I know that if I were to hit this rail with a little bit of high left, it would go to 0. So we're going to put this back on the 26-13 diagonal. Now since I know I need high left on the 13, I'm going to shoot the cue ball with low right. So now this fly ball is on the 16-8 diagonal, and I'm going to put my cue ball on the same path line. But just with a touch of high left, I know I can bank that 5 into the side pocket. So knowing I need high left on the 5 ball, I'm going to use low right on the cue ball. Alright, so this is a banking drill. This is all going to be dead banks. And by that I mean, I'm going to find the path each object ball is on, and I'm going to put the cue ball on the same path line. So this is 14-7. So I'm going to put the cue ball on the same path line. Now I know I need high right hand English on the 4 ball to pocket it in the corner. Now I learned that doing the phase previously, that for me to pocket this in the corner, I'm going to need a touch of right hand English on the object ball. And as we learned, whatever English you need on the object ball, you need the opposite English on your cue ball. So if I need high right, I'm going to have to shoot the cue ball with low left. And remember, when you're banking, you have to follow the object ball as it heads toward the rail. You always have to remember to do that. And that way, if you're missing banks, you'll know right away whether it's your English or whether your aim is off. Because here, this is 22-11. If I'm not paying attention, maybe I'll strike the object ball right about here at 9, and I end up missing the pocket here, and I don't know why I'm missing. Then I start to think, well, did I use too much English? So if you can just follow it to the rail, right away you'll know, well, I'm hitting the proper target, and I'm still missing. That means I need to adjust my aim. So this is 22-11. And this is 32-16. This is just low left-hand English. And this is just 10-5. And cue ball and object ball are on the same path line. And this one's going to be 54-27. And looks like this one is 12-6. So I need a little bit of high right on the 9 ball. If I were just to shoot this in the side, I would be using high right. So now that we know that, I know I need to use low left on the cue ball. And now, since we're banking toward this pocket, and I'm going to need high left when the object ball hits this rail, since I need high left, I need to hit the cue ball with low right. So right now it looks like we're on the, right around 10-5. So I'll be using low right on the cue ball. This one's right around 20-10. So I'll be using low right. And it looks like this one is 22-11. So just low right on the cue ball, or I'm sorry, low left on the cue ball is going to put high right on the object ball. And this is a drill that over time, at some point you're going to be able to run the whole table. And the key is, you just have to get used to seeing the path each object ball is on. And always remember, when you strike the object ball, follow that object ball to the rail. Okay, in this situation, we want to bank the 7 ball in the side pocket. And we see it's on the 30-15-0 path. And now we can see that the cue ball and the object ball are on the same path line. But what happens when the cue ball is inside the path and is no longer on the same path line as the object ball? Whenever your cue ball is inside the path, when it strikes the object ball to bank it, it's always going to transfer English to the object ball, even if there is no English on the cue ball at all. As I said before, the pool balls are like gears. Even if the cue ball has no English on it at all, it's still going to transfer English to the object ball. In this case, we transferred right-hand English to the 11 ball, which shortened the angle. So if you had to bank this 7 ball in the side pocket, you have to allow for that English that's going to be transferred to the object ball when the cue ball strikes it. And you can do that by either adjusting your target or by using more English on the cue ball. So that's why it's so important for you to be able to see the path each object ball is on. For instance, this one is on 30-15-0, and I know that if the cue ball were here, and this was in the middle of a game, I know the cue ball and 11 ball are on the same path line. So I know this is a dead bank. So I just use a little bit of low right. So what you have to do is, like I said, visualize the path this 11 ball is on. So let's say the 11 ball is here. When I walk up to the table and it's my turn, I can tell, even without using my pool stick, that this 11 ball is on the 20-10-0 path. So I know that if the cue ball were here, the cue ball is inside the path. And now I know that I won't be hitting the object ball full. I'm only going to be hitting about 50% of the object ball when I come at the object ball from this angle. And as I explained earlier, when you come at this angle, even if you don't put English on the cue ball, it's going to impart right-hand English on the 11 ball, and what that's going to do is that's going to shorten your angle and you'll end up missing the bank shot. So I know the cue ball is inside the path, which means I won't be hitting the 11 ball full. I'm only going to be hitting maybe 50% of it. So the way I counter that is I keep my same target, which is 10. I just add a little bit more English to the cue ball. And remember, whenever you're doing this, every bank shot, follow that object ball to that rail. Follow it right to your target. In this example, I'm going to be doing a long rail bank on the 5 ball, and I can see it's on the 40-20-0 diagonal. And the cue ball is inside the path area, which means I won't be hitting the object ball full. So when the cue ball strikes the 5 ball, it's going to transfer right-hand English to it, shortening the angle. And normally, when I'm shooting a long rail dead bank on this table, I don't need English on the cue ball. But in this situation, since the cue ball is inside the path area, I'll need to use right-hand English on the cue ball to help spin the object ball toward the corner pocket. In this example, the 5 ball is on the 30-15 diagonal, and the cue ball is once again inside the path area. So this time, instead of using English on the cue ball, I'm just going to change my target. Instead of 15, I'll aim around 13 or 14. Okay, here's a situation where I want to bank the 7 ball in the corner pocket, and I want to hold the cue ball in that area for the 8 ball. And then I can just pocket the 9 ball and win the game. Well, first I find the path the 7 ball is on, and now I can see that the cue ball is just barely inside the path. So in this situation, I would just use more right-hand English on the cue ball, which would transfer more left-hand English onto the 7 ball, spinning it into the corner pocket, and holding the cue ball in that area for the 8 ball. So let's say I need to bank the 7 ball over here, but I want to hold the cue ball in this area, so I can shoot this 8 ball in the corner or the side pocket. Now, I know right away this 7 ball is on this 30-15-0 diagonal. And I know that if I do my normal banking stroke, which is low right, that the cue ball is going to leave the area. And there it left the area. And that's because we were coming at the object ball at an angle. But this time, what I'm going to do is instead of aiming toward 15, I'm going to aim higher up so I can hold the cue ball for the 8 ball. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a lot more English on the cue ball. I'm going to be using a lot more right-hand English on the cue ball and just not hitting the object ball as hard. And that extra English on the cue ball is going to transfer more spin onto the 7, which will spin it over here toward the corner pocket. And I should be able to hold the cue ball in this area for the 8 ball. So in this situation, I want to bank the 7 ball in the side pocket, and I know it's on the 24-12-0 path. So now that I know what path it's on, I can see that the cue ball is outside that path area. But it's still pretty close to the path line. So what you want to do is you want to draw a line from the center of the cue ball through the center of the object ball to the side rail, and you want to see what number both balls are aimed toward. In this case, both balls are aimed toward 10. If I were to shoot this object ball at 10 with a firm stroke, I could shorten the angle and still bank it in the side pocket. And even if the cue ball were here and both balls were lined up toward 9, I could still bank the ball in the side pocket. I just need to use a firm stroke with some outside English. Okay, now I'm playing a game of 9 ball, and I come across this situation. And I really don't have a pocket for the 7 ball, and I don't want to play safety. And this looks like a pretty easy bank shot. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you can do. And once you can start seeing the path each object ball is on, in your mind you're going to be able to make the adjustments necessary to pocket the ball. So I'm going to go through a couple right now. I'm going to put this on 24-12. So now if I were to shoot this at 12, it'll go to the side pocket. So we're going to put this back in 24-12. So now that I know the 7 ball is on the 24-12-0 path, I can see that the cue ball is outside the path area. It's close to the path line, but it's outside the path area. It's not a dead bang. These 2 balls are lined up straight toward 10, this diamond, on this rail. Now if I were to shoot straight at 10 with my normal banking speed and English, I'll probably miss the pocket by about a diamond. And I hit this diamond right here. So I know I need to make an adjustment if I'm going to bank straight at this ball. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to put this back in 24-12. Now both of these balls are lined up toward 10. And this system will work within 3 or 4 of your target. And we know our target is 12 because it's on 24, 12, 0. So I'm going to shoot a 10, which is 2 less than 12, so I just need to shorten the angle. And I do that just by hitting center in the cue ball and using a firm stroke. Now we're going to put this back in 24, 12. Just like this, and this time I'm going to line these two balls up so they point toward 9. Now that's 3 away from our target. So knowing that it's 3 away, I now not only have to hit the cue ball hard, but I have to use a little bit of outside English. And then outside English will help shorten the angle so the ball goes into the side pocket. I'm just shooting straight at the rail, straight at 9. Now this system even works when you're 4 away from your target. You know, it all depends on the bank and everything else and the table that you're playing on. And you just got to work with the system to get comfortable with it. This is 24-12. Now I'm going to line these two balls up toward 8. And this is the same thing I just did. I'm just going to hit with a firm stroke and use a lot of outside English on the cue ball to really shorten the angle. So this is actually be named at 8, which is 4 less than our target. So here's another example of this system. This 7 ball is on the 40-20-0 path. And now I can see that the cue ball is near the path line, but the cue ball is outside the path area. Here's another view. Now it looks like both balls are lined up toward 18. Since 18 is 2 away from our original target of 20, we can pocket this in the corner with just a firm stroke. Now the cue ball is a little farther away from the path line, and it looks like both balls are lined up toward 16. Since 16 is 4 away from 20, we can still pocket this in the corner, but we're going to have to use a little bit of outside English on the cue ball with a very firm stroke. In this example, we want to bank the 7 ball into the corner pocket. And now I can see the 7 ball is on the 42-21-0 path. But the cue ball is quite a bit outside of that path area, and there's no way I can hold that cue ball in the same area as the 7 ball after I bank it in the corner. And in these types of banks, when the cue ball strikes the object ball, the cue ball is going to continue through the path area while the 7 ball banks toward the corner. So to understand this better, you have to understand the physics of what happens when the cue ball strikes the object ball. So in this example, the cue ball is going to strike the object ball and bank it into the corner. And as I said before, even if the cue ball has no English on it at all, when you're not striking an object ball full, the cue ball will always transfer some sort of English to the object ball. And in this case, when the cue ball strikes the object ball, it's going to transfer right-hand English. You always have to be aware of what kind of English is being transferred to the object ball when you're not hitting the object ball full. So now we're going to be doing cross-corner bank shots. And the cue ball is no longer near the path line. It's going to be way up here. Now I know the 7 ball is on the 20-10-0 path. So I'm going to be coming from this area. I'm going to go ahead and shoot one, and then I'm going to explain in more detail what I'm doing. Now we're going to try 30-15. So what you have to remember when you do these bank shots is there's a few things you have to remember. Number one, I'm going to put this on 20-10-0. So this 3 ball is on 20-10-0 path. And as I explained before, if the cue ball is up here, there's no way to hold the cue ball in this area when you bank it, because you're coming at this extreme of an angle. The cue ball is going to hit the 3 ball, hit the rail, and come back up. And remember, whenever you're not hitting an object ball full, whenever you're coming at an object ball at an angle, the cue ball is always going to transfer a little bit of English to the 3 ball, or the object ball. So when this cue ball strikes the 3 ball, it's going to put a little bit of right hand English on the 3 ball. And in this case, that's a good thing, because in order for me to make this 3 ball in the corner, I'm going to need a little bit of right hand English. So we don't really have to add extra English to the cue ball to make up for that, because that's actually English we can use to pocket the ball. So what we have to do here is find the path the 3 ball is on, and I know it's on the 20, 10, 0. So 10 becomes my target. So when I'm standing over here, I'm looking at 10 and I'm drawing a line from 10 to the 3 ball. And here's why a lot of players miss this shot. It's because when you're standing straight across, and I'm going to give you a different view of this, but when you're standing straight across, that's quite an angle to get from 10 to the 3 ball. But as you stand back here, it almost looks like my target 10 is straight across the rail from the 3 ball. So in this angle, we can see the first diamond, which is 10, which is our target, and we can see that line that goes from 10 to the 3 ball, and it's a little bit of an angle. But as we stand back and look at it from where we're going to be shooting, it doesn't look like it's that much of an angle. So what happens is people end up hitting the 3 ball too thin and hitting too high up on the rail. So you always have to remember, when you're shooting shots like this, the angle from here to the 3 ball looks a heck of a lot different when you're standing over here. It almost looks like the 10 is straight across from the 3 ball on the side rail. So what happens is a lot of players, and I'll demonstrate here, they end up hitting around 11 or 12, and they end up coming up short. And as I said before, what you have to do on every single bank shot is you have to see that target in your mind, and you have to draw a line from that target to the 3 ball. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll stand over here and I'll draw that line from the target to the 3 ball, and then I'll keep my eye on that line as I come down here. So in this example, the 3 ball's on 40, 20, 0 path. So if I were to aim toward 20, 3 ball will go to 0. So now the cue ball is here. I'm just going to aim toward 20, and that should pocket the ball. What you have to do is, since this is 20, you got to draw a line from 20 to the 3 ball. You really have to visualize that line, otherwise you're going to lose track when you get down here. These are difficult bank shots, and it's really easy to lose track of where you're aiming, or to mishit it and hit higher up on the rail. You just have to be really careful. So now we're going to do the same shot, but this time we're going to do 30. We'll do 32, 16. Now this is a little bit harder. I'm not aiming toward a diamond, I'm aiming toward a spot right here. So it's really easy for me to lose this target. So what I want to do is draw a line from here to the 3 ball. Make sure that's correct. Yeah, 32, 16. So from 16 to the 3 ball. And I want to make sure I don't lose track of that line when I come back here. So we're going to go through some possible double kiss bank shots. And I'm going to show you something that I call the danger zone. So here we're on 30, 15. The night ball's on 30, 15, 0. That's the path the object ball is on. And the cue ball is going to be up here. So the cue ball is going to be striking the object ball and then heading down here, hitting this rail and coming back up. And now both balls are pointing right toward 5. So I always call 5 and under a danger zone. When both balls are lined up straight toward this rail here, the first rail the object ball is going to hit. When both balls are lined up toward 5 and under, that's a danger zone. Right now these two balls are lined up right to about 4.5 or 5. So if I try to bank this in, there could be a double kiss. And there was. So that's what I call the danger zone, 5 and under. If I'm here at 50, 25, I'm going to point this toward 5 on this rail. Anywhere around this area is a danger zone. So here we're pointed toward 5. I'm going to try and bank this in. And once again, we got the double kiss. So you always have to be aware that when you come up to one of these bank shots, always check to see where these two balls are lined up to. Right now, both of these balls are pointing straight to 5, actually 4 over here. So this could be a possible double kiss shot. So I always take precautions whenever this happens, and I'm going to show that to you right now. In this example, we're going to cross bank this 3 ball into the top left-hand corner pocket. The problem is both balls are pointing straight toward 4 on the side rail, and that's a danger zone. So there's liable to be a double kiss. So here's my first attempt. I'm going to shoot with high right, which put left-hand English on the 3 ball to bank it, but we got the double kiss. I'm going to put the balls back in the exact same spot, but this time I'm going to shoot the same way, but watch the cue ball as it comes off the end rail. It's going to come straight back, and then we get the double kiss. So this time I'm going to try something different. Instead of high right on the cue ball, I'm going to hit center right. And I'm going to try and spin the cue ball away from the object ball. Here, as you can see, the path widened when the cue ball came off the end rail, and I was able to avoid the 3 ball. Here, both balls are lined up toward 2, which means if I try to cross bank this shot, I'll probably get a double kiss. And I did. So this time I'm going to try and spin the cue ball out of the way to avoid the double kiss. And if you try this, you may have to adjust your aim on the side rail. So if this were on the 20, 10, 0 path, instead of aiming toward 10, I would shoot toward 11 or 12. And you want to shoot this shot a little bit easier so you can spin the object ball toward the corner pocket. In this example, I'm going to cross back the 7 into the corner pocket, and both balls are lined up directly toward 2 on the side rail, and as we know, that's a danger zone, so I'm probably going to get a double kiss on this. And we did. So this time I'm going to try a different technique for avoiding the double kiss. I'm going to line both balls up so they're pointing toward 2, and in this time, instead of aiming toward my target, which is 14, I'm going to aim toward 11 and use a lot of right-hand English. And watch what happens when the cue ball hits the rail with the right-hand English. It spins away from the 7 ball, and the 7 ball is allowed to go in the corner without striking the cue ball. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk about what to do when your object ball is frozen on a rail. And I'm not talking about banks where the cue ball is below the object ball. I'm talking about banks where the cue ball is straight across from the object ball or higher up. So what I do, I just came up with my own system. It works for me, and you can do it if you want. If the object ball is at the first diamond, then I subtract 1. So instead of aiming this one ball toward 10, I aim it toward 9. That's pretty much my whole system. If the object ball that's frozen on the rail is next to the first diamond, away from the pocket, so I'm going to be pocketing the ball over here. So the first diamond over, this is where the object ball is, so I'm going to aim it toward 9. Now, if it was on the second diamond, I would then aim it toward 18. So by that I mean, here's 18 right here. So the cue ball is going to hit right here when it strikes the ball on the rail. And whenever it's 2 diamonds away, I use a little bit more English and I don't hit it quite as hard. Alright, I almost made that one. I'm going to try that one again. Remember, you have to aim this toward 18. Alright, so now, if the one ball is between the first and second diamond, so you subtract 1 when it's at the first diamond, subtract 2 when it's at the second diamond. When it's in between them, you subtract 1.5. So this looks like 13.5. So here's 13.5 right here, so the cue ball is going to hit right there. So I'm aiming this toward 13.5. And these are just shots that you have to practice and get a feel for. This is just a system I use. You always got to watch for the double kiss whenever you do these shots. So now we're at 2.5. And I'm right about here with the cue ball. So 2.5. I subtract 2.5. So instead of 25, we're looking at 22.5. So the cue ball is going to hit right about here. Because I got to aim the one ball toward 22.5. And this one I'm going to hit a little bit softer with a little bit more right-hand English on the cue ball. So this system usually works if the cue ball is anywhere within this pink area. And if the cue ball is farther up on the table, as it is here, then I just bank the ball with a little softer speed with a little bit more English on the cue ball. So here, the 7 ball is at 5 on the rail. And the reason this is 5 is because we're banking to the side pocket, and the side pocket is 0. So the 7 ball is between the side pocket and the first diamond, so that'll be 5. So if we aim this toward 4.5, the 7 ball should bank in the side pocket. In this example, the 7 ball is at the first diamond, which is 10. Now every diamond away, you subtract 1 from the number that the object ball is at. So the object ball here is at 10, so we're going to aim 7 toward 9, and it should bank in the side pocket. In this example, the 7 ball is now 2 diamonds away. So I need to subtract 2 from its location, so I'll be aiming 7 toward 18. And when the object ball is 1.5, 2 diamonds away, you have to shoot a lot softer with a lot more English on the cue ball. And in this last example, the 7 ball is at 25 on the side rail. So I would just minus 2.5 from 25, and that gives me 22.5. If I can just aim the 7 ball toward 22.5, use a lot of English on the cue ball, and use a soft stroke, I should be able to bank it in the side pocket. Now throughout this video, I've been using low left and low right to bank balls in. For instance, this 5 ball is on 20, 10, 0. So if I aim this toward 10 with low left on the cue ball, the 5 ball will go in the corner. But you don't have to use low left, low right. If you just want to use center left, center right to bank balls in, you can. For instance, here I just hit center with a touch of left. And I'm going to show you something else that I do. Generally, I like to bank without using English on the cue ball. So if I come across a bank like this, 20, 10, 0, what I'll do is, I'm just going to hit center low, but instead of hitting 10, I'm going to subtract 1 or 2. And it depends on the table. This table I might have to subtract 2. It's around 2 or 1. So we'll go 1.5, 8.5 right here. And all these banks, remember, you always got to follow them to the pocket. This is 32, 16, so if I aim this toward 15, and this one's like 10, 5, I'll aim toward 4. This one's 50, 25, I'll aim toward 24. And this one is 50, let's see, 56.28. So this is 56.28, so I aim toward 26 and a half, 27. So that's something that you can practice if you want. And remember, once you find the path the object ball is on, try subtracting 1 off that and hit the ball with no English on the cue ball and see if that works. Every table plays differently, so you're going to have to experiment. And like I said, if you want to get really good at banks and you're really serious about it, you got to do the one ball banks. And you got to do it for a while until you can get up to a table and you're able to see the path each object ball is on. So you should be able to just walk up to the table and just bam, bam, bam all the way down and just bank them all in. Because once you can see the path each object ball is on, I mean that's pretty good information. So when you get up to a bank shot like this, you know exactly where to hit over here to pocket the ball. It's just going to make banking so much easier for you. You're not going to have to do any sort of mirror tricks or anything else. You just got to practice it, put in the hours, and I guarantee you your banking will improve.